3, 2, 1, and we're starting. So welcome to the third edition of the African Film Festival Atlanta, which is a signature event of the African Film and Arts Foundation. The African Film and Arts Foundation Incorporated is a nonprofit 501c3 media arts organization based in Atlanta, Georgia, whose mission is to magnify and celebrate the visions, voices, lives, and stories of people from Africa and the African diaspora. So today we have my favorite people in the world, filmmakers. I love filmmakers. I'm a filmmaker too. So we have the filmmakers who submitted their film, that had their film screened online. So it makes sense for us to have a Q&A with them online. And I am going to get all of them to introduce themselves to you. They're going to tell you who they are and what they're, and one thing I forgot to mention, tell us a little bit about the film. They will tell us their names and a little bit about their film. So I'm going to start with Yao. Introduce yourself, please. And if you could get on camera, that would be very nice as well.
Okay, I am Yao, which is a Ghanaian name, born on a Thursday, because I was born in Ghana on a Thursday.
Could you go on camera, please?
I can't because it cuts my bandwidth down.
Are you okay? Okay, so name, where, zooming in from, and a little bit about your film, the name of your film.
So I'm Yao Ramesar. I'm zooming in from Trinidad and Tobago. My film is Fortunate for All. I have it still up because I actually stand very still anyhow, so it really won't make a difference. And my film Fortunate for All is about a family in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean named Fortune. And their brother's death starts the film. He is one of the first fatalities from a mysterious violent illness that's sweeping their island. So everything that comes after under the pall of his death and this virus, this illness that people are dropping like flies. And I came up with this idea.
Sorry to cut you. This are the initial introductions. We're going to have time to go into the details about your film. So the initial thing is I want everybody to be able to introduce themselves. So I'm going to move over to Simon. Is it Simon? Is it pronounced Simon?
Simone.
I knew, yeah. Simone. Simona?
Yeah, Simone.
Simone. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Simone Brioni. I'm the writer of the film Maka, directed by Elia Mutamid, a Moroccan-Italian director. The film focuses on the story of and the work by Geneviève Macaping, who is the writer of the first critical race studies book in Italian and the first Black director of a newspaper in Italy. And I call from Long Island.
Okay, thank you. Carolina.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Carolina Boco. I'm the co-director of the movie Shapes of Africa. I'm calling from Italy. Our movie, directed with Luca Lavopa, is about looking for freedom, connecting different people and different cultures. And it's shot in Kenya and has been shot in Kenya and in Italy.
Okay, thank you very much. Duncan?
Hi, my name is Duncan.
And your volume is very low. Your volume is very low.
My apologies.
Much better.
So my name is Duncan. My name is Duncan Lauer. I'm calling from Las Vegas, Nevada. And my film was Naming Spaces, the AADS Story, which is just a documentary about the Black Studies program at UNCG in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay, thank you very much. Orit?
Hi, hello. My name's Orit Novak, and my film is Hidden Hunger, and I'm calling from Australia. My film is a social impact documentary about a charity that's aiming to end malnutrition in East Africa, particularly Kenya and Tanzania. So, yep, that's where the film was shot.
Okay, thank you. Maya?
Hi, sorry for the background noise. My name is Maya. I'm the director of Naming Space, AADS Story. The documentary is to honor the legacy of the African Diaspora Program in UNC Greensboro, and it was shot in the United States.
Thank you. Safiya?
Hello, everyone. My name is Safiya Songhai. I'm the director of a documentary called Interception, Jayne Kennedy, American sportscaster, and it's about the first African-American woman to become a sportscaster in American television and all of the twists and turns that she had to go through because she confronted nonstop racism from the second that she decided to make history.
Thank you. Yesmalem?
Hi, everyone. My name is Yesmalem Yeshaw. Thank you for giving me this chance. I would like to thank the festival first. My film is called Lijen, or My Child. It's about two Ethiopian and it's about an American and Ethiopian couple that loses their child, and the film explores how the way we grieve, the way how culturally different people grieve, and how culture is actually important, the way we process some traumatic events. And I'm zooming in from Washington, DC.
Okay. And last but not the least, Kristine.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kristine Rivera. I'm calling in from New Jersey in the United States, and I produced Her Time Is Now, which is a social justice documentary on women's empowerment and advocacy. And Her Time Is Now follows the story of two powerful women in Siaya, Kenya, as they rewrite their narratives in the context of a patriarchal society.
Okay, thank you. So we actually have two filmmakers whose films are features, which is Yao and Carolina, and the rest are short. So I'm going to start with the features folks first. Like I said, we only have like an hour, so if everybody could give us short and concise answers, I'd appreciate it. I may go off screen for a minute, but please continue talking because my assistant is not here and I have to look at the live audience. So let's start with you, Yao, because you were talking to us about how your film came about. So if you could go ahead and tell us again how your film came about.
Well, I was filming, directing two features, one in South Africa and one in India. And I came home to Trinidad and Tobago where I live. Although I was born in Ghana, I live in Trinidad and Tobago. And I came home and I attended a funeral in 2017. And I listened to the eulogy and it just triggered a story. So I crossed the road, I left the funeral, crossed the road and went into a bar in search of a napkin and a pen. And I started writing the screenplay, which is about a brother who dies. The eldest brother in the family dies. The family name is Fortune. And he dies of a mysterious illness that's sweeping their Caribbean island. He's one of the first to die. And ironically, when I was filming, in the middle of filming in 2020, in March, a real virus shut down the film for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's very difficult to get back on board in 2022 when I resumed. So I picked up the pieces and basically finished the film. So it's a kind of prescient thing for some strange reason. People blame COVID on me. But anyway, it really deals with a middle-class Caribbean family, which is very unusual. Usually we do it with the ghetto ganja stuff, you know, which is true, but it's not all we are. So I want to show another dimension of who we are because we've been terribly stereotyped and caricatured in cinema, in literature, and everything else. So I came up with the Fortune family, and it's really about them coming together, the siblings who survive after years apart and being forced into the family home where they're isolating, and of all the clashing and loving, all the rich repartee that takes place, you know, sibling rivalry and everything. So it's really about a Caribbean family, the Afro-Caribbean people. So it's about the African family in the 21st century faced with all kinds of dilemmas, and it's about survival and struggle.
Okay, thank you. Fun fact, that the leads in your film was actually the lead in a film we screened called Hero, Francis Anne Solomon's film.
Yes, Nikolai Salcedo just came off the lead in that film, but interestingly, Michael Cherry, who is also on the three leads, but Michael Cherry is about to star opposite or alongside Regina King in Shirley, about Shirley Chisholm.
Oh, okay.
For Netflix.
Very nice.
And of course, it's directed by John Ridley, who won the Academy Award for screenwriting 12 Years a Slave. So he's about to blow up again because he had a nice time many years ago with the BBC and a lovely series he was in. So he's having a second coming. So that's all, you know, it's a nice person. And their sister, who's played by Samara Lalo, is not a newcomer, but this is her first big role, I would say. And I think she may steal some of the scenes because she's a fantastic actress.
Actress, yes, she was.
And we won the award at last week, I think it was, at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival.
Oh, very nice.
Best film. And of course, I gave her the award.
Very nice. Congratulations. Very nice.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to move on to Carolina. Oh, Carolina? Carolina, sorry. Carolina. So tell us how the film Shapes of Africa came about.
Yeah. The movie is based on a book, which is Questa notte parlami dell'Africa. The English was like, Tell Me About Africa Tonight. It's an Italian book. Many years ago, the producer got the rights and decided to make this movie. So it was very long. We were in Kenya the first time, it was 2017 for location scouting before writing. And then we shot in 2021 at the beginning in Kenya, and then after a few months in Italy. It's a story about two women, Emma and Nuri. Emma is an Italian lawyer, and Nuri is a young girl, a Kenyan young girl. They basically share a path looking for freedom, looking for their own freedom for their lives. So Emma decided to leave Italy, and she goes to Africa, and there can meet Nuri, and also she starts working with a local association involved in the protection of the local people and animals. It's a story about women, but at the same time, there are also men. There are no protagonists. They have their own story, but women are definitely the protagonists of the movie, also in the crew, because I'm one of the two directors, but we had women in the crew, like the production designer, the costume designer, the casting, lots of women in the cast, not just the protagonist. It was a beautiful experience, and it was a beautiful meeting of different cultures, also in the making of the movie, because we were a mixed crew, Kenyan and Italian. So it was really exciting, difficult, obviously, like Aaron,
we will get to challenges. We will get to challenges because that's one of the questions. So
yeah,
maybe you can hold
off.
Of
course, I can understand.
Yeah, you can hold off on challenges because that is one of the questions. So I want to go to Duncan and Maya. You're from the same film, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So tell us, how did you both come up with the idea, how it came about, and why this particular story about that department?
Absolutely. I can start. I was the program itself wanted to make a video about them, and so they actually they hired me first, and I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. So I ended up hiring I forgot to mention this. I'm the producer. She's the director.
Okay.
And I ended up I basically talked to Maya. I knew she'd be amazing at this, and so she ended up doing all the work afterwards. And so she can probably give more after that.
Yeah, so I'm part of this club, and I know Duncan came and talked about the film. He was looking for some extra hands that could help with it. And for me, I'm a media studies major, film. So I took this as an opportunity to learn more about filmmaking. And so I hit him up and we talked. And so that's how I got involved. And it actually turned into something more where I learned more about the program. And I guess we'll get into that later, but that's how it came about.
Okay. Simone, did I get it right?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, in 2001, Geneviève Maka book, Reversing the Gaze, What If You Were the Other, was published in Italy. And recently a translation in English came out. In 2009, I read this book and I was struck. It was an incredibly powerful book, mix between an anthropological reflection about racism in Italy, but also an autobiographical experience. And I started, reading it voraciously. I started teaching it in my courses. I'm also a film scholar, and I teach courses on migration studies. We had the opportunity, and I already directed 2 movies about Black Italian intellectuals in 2009. So somehow this book was a third book about prominent Black Italian intellectuals. And we really wanted to show Maka ideas more than her story. I contacted her through Facebook, and we created this connection. We worked on the film 6 years, and then 2 years ago I met Elia Mutamid, the director, who then helped me to make this movie.
Okay. Orit, how did your film come about?
Yeah,
And
so
how did you get involved?
yeah, so there's a charity. Well, I was very interested in creating a social impact kind of documentary. That's really where I want to focus most of my work as a filmmaker. And there is a well-known charity here in Australia called The Life You Can Save, and they represent 10 other charities around the world, which they independently audit and assess who does the most good with the money that's donated. And so there is a charity called Senku, which they are based in Kenya and Tanzania, but their founder is actually living in Australia. And they create a technology that allows farmers to incorporate fortified nutrients into the flour that makes up the staple ingredient for a lot of Kenyans and Tanzanians, which is maize flour. Which goes into the dish ugali, which heaps of communities eat across different classes. But it's particularly an issue in lower socioeconomic communities where that is just the main dish that people will consume within a day. And whilst it makes sense because it's affordable and it's filling and it's easy to come by, it's really doesn't have any nutritional value. So yeah, the work they do is life-saving, and the way we've told the story is through the eyes of the people who are part of this change. So the farmers, the millers who have decided to take on board this technology to create the shift, within their community, and also the food scientists and the people behind the technology. And one thing that was very important to me as well was not just to demonstrate the issues of this being a central dish to the diet, but also to celebrate the existing food culture that is already present there. And the film does go into the cultural significance of the dish and why it is something that is quite incredible and unique to Kenya and Tanzania and a lot of East Africa, because it's a shared dish. It brings people together. It's a place where children are learning about manners about how to eat. They're all eating together. There's so much like positivity to come out of it. So it was important to me to highlight those aspects as well. Yeah.
Okay. Safiya, how did your film come about? How did you get involved? And you favor each other, actually. From the woman that you did the documentary on, the picture I saw on the cover looks like you.
Oh, so yeah. Well, that's the answer to your question. So Jayne Kennedy is my mother's first cousin. And so I'm her her first cousin once removed. And so but that's a big part of the story. My mom is actually a big part of the story because my mom, I was born after Jayne Kennedy kind of had her acting career and things of that, all of that. So she was such a big deal to my family, like to my grandparents, to my mom.
Yeah.
And she was still on like Ebony and Jet magazine, well deep into the 80s, even the 90s. And so, but she wasn't really acting that much at that point. But because my family just was like, oh, she just meant so much to them. And then she meant so much to other people from that time period. I always was, when I went to film school, when I was like 17, I took one film class and I was like, this is it, this is happening. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm doing this. Like, that's just what it was. And then from that point on, I knew I wanted to do a film about Jayne Kennedy's life. I just thought she was, the impact that I saw that she had on people living her life. I knew that she was definitely the type of person who deserved to have like a life story film like Josephine Baker or Tina Turner or Dorothy Dandridge. And so, however, I did not know her story. I didn't know anything really about it. And so I like met her when I was 5 years old. I remember meeting her and she just looked like an angel. I was just like, whoa, like, she's so beautiful. And then had a voice that was so, just absolutely magical and everything. And then after that, I called her up because I saw a grant from Arizona State University and they were looking for stories about sports. And so I don't know, I was thinking about I wonder who the first Black women in sports were. And I just went on this dive, and then I found Jayne Kennedy was the first Black woman sportscaster, which I didn't actually know that. And then so I called her up and I had to get the grant in, and the grant was due Sunday. I was calling everyone in the family. I'm like, do you have Jayne's number? Do you have a number? Come on, give it somebody. And so I was 4 degrees of separation away from her phone number. And I just had to put the grant in. And she called me on Wednesday and we had a 5-hour pre-interview. And I thought it would be one of those stories of yes, I was the first person and yay for me. And it was anything but that. It was anything but everyone lifted me up on their shoulders and I was embraced with open arms. It was nope. Every day of my life, these people were coming for me. And I'm like, what? And then what happened? So every day I just couldn't believe how I could believe it because I've gone through similar things as a Black woman in different paradigms where I'm the only Black African-American woman, Black woman, all the different words, colored woman, a Negro woman, all the things. And so I knew that the story would be relatable to anyone, whether you are a TV personality or you're working HR, or you're whatever your occupation is. If you're a Black woman in an industry that is everything not you, it's male, it's white, and even if you have white women and you have Black men, they still don't know what this particular walk is, being a Black woman. It's different than both of those other experiences, and it's closer to perhaps being a Black man because the racial element is always in America, just such a dividing force. And one of the things I loved about her story as become the first African-American female sportscaster was her relationship with Irv Cross, because Irv Cross was the first African-American sportscaster. And he was the only person even what she was going through. And he was always there for her emotionally to make sure that she didn't, when things get really rough, he's there for her. And I just think that's a great relationship to show a Black man and a Black woman who are not in a romantic relationship. They're not family, they're coworkers, and they're there for each other psychologically, emotionally, to deal with that, that work husband, work wife situation. They had a great relationship in that way of just being there for each other and giving. And it's there's a nod that Black people give when we see each other in spaces where it's predominantly white. And we're like, all right, we just give this little nod and we're like, hey, I see you. You see me, I see you, and we're just ready. And you don't always get it back though. Sometimes that's how the person's not a real one. But when they are a real one, they give you some type of indication that, you know, like we're here alone. And, you know, if it goes down, you know, I got you. And I don't even know you yet. I don't even know your name, but I got you. But they had that type of relationship, which is beautiful. And really what I wanted to show was strategy. What does it take inside of someone's mind to decide to throw themselves across essentially the tightrope, you know, like all the way up in the sky, and no one else knows how to tell you how to walk the tightrope. You know, there has to be someone who decides I'm going to do this, but no, they don't have any counsel as to how. They don't have any guidance or any type of, there's no mentors at this particular time for what it is that she was trying to do. And the way that people were trying to stab her in the back and just in general, blame her for things that were not her fault, set her up, gaslight her, all the usual tactics. But what does it feel like for that person to go through that emotionally, mentally, and all of that? And Jayne is a fantastic storyteller. She's a really gifted storyteller, just the way that she tells the story at the beat, like the moment that it happened, she celebrates temporarily. Like she's like, and then I got it. And then the next day they did this. Like she just does a great job of not jumping to the end. You know, she really kind of takes it exactly as the emotions were revealed. And I just wanted to show other people, especially people who were born more recently, who are always trying to say like, oh, I can't handle it, you know, my mental health and all that. It's like, listen, this mental health thing is nothing new, and it's been excruciating and far more acute than it is now. It's been far worse than it is currently for people, and it is survivable. You can thrive, you can prevail, you can win the battle, you can win the war. And I wanted to show someone who actually did it, and their strategy, and more importantly, her philosophy on life. Okay. And because that's where it all starts, is you got to get your head in the game to even have a vision of winning. And she's a winner.
Okay, sorry, I had to cut you. I had to go to it's unfortunate we only have like an hour, but hey. So Kristine, how did the film come about? How did you get involved?
Yes, so at Villanova University, where we produce the film, there's a program called Social Justice Documentary, which is a year-long course in which students who join a class travel to a particular country and film a documentary on a social issue that's pervasive in that community. I joined last year, and I was a senior last year, already graduated. And I have no film experience whatsoever. I'm an economics and peace and justice major. So I joined the class because I'm interested in social justice, not for the film aspect of it. And so when I joined the class, we found out that we were traveling to Kenya to film a documentary on women's empowerment. And a large part of the reason why we went to Kenya was because there was a postdoctoral fellow at Villanova University that school year whose research was fueled in women's empowerment, specifically. Her name is Dr. Irina Wino, and she specifically researched the UN Sustainable Development Goals 4, 5, and 6, which are the right to quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation, respectively. So that's kind of how the film came about, and we traveled to Siaya, Kenya, alongside a team of 13 other students. And we traveled to Kenya to film that documentary. And we also worked with a grassroots organization on ground in order to meet some of the people who ended up being featured in our film.
Oh, very nice. I've got everyone apart from Yesmalem, right? So tell us how your film came about and how you got involved.
My film was my thesis project, and so I moved to United States in 2014. So I lived 20 years. I'm 29 right now. 20 years back in Ethiopia, and when I came here, what I saw first, growing up in Ethiopia, grief is a big thing. When somebody dies, we sit for 30 days, sometimes more. Everybody comes. Everybody from any part of the city would come. They sit. They grieve. They cry together. And growing up, I saw that, you know, how impactful that was, you know, just the community and how togetherness helps. And when I came here, and when I went to the biggest culture shock was, you know, people after a funeral, people just go home and everything goes back to normal. You have social security, you have bills, you have to go. You have no time to even think about your grief and your process. And whenever you get to a state you're depressed and you need some kind of hope, they'll give you medications and they'll refer you to things. But I see that, you know, I feel like I wanted to share, which there's another side. And the film, I created these two characters, and after the death of their daughter, as his wife, as American, she will, you know, try to move forward, try to, you know, try to take care of the house, try to pay the bills, but he's stuck. He's stoic. He's not responding, and she has to find solutions. Why not? He's not responding, and she had to confide to his like aunt, or basically his. I put his aunt as a character to embody Ethiopia, or
yes, I remember that.
and she will get that resources, like she will get that insight that he needs to, you know, like he wanted to see his wife feeling it too. She wanted to say, like, you want growing up from what I've seen is, you know, having that space to actually cry. And if your person, the person you love, when you see them showing emotions, that actually helps you define, face your emotions. And so at the end of the film, she would actually wear full black. She would actually embody how she would actually cry like an Ethiopian. She would actually see, and that would wake him up, that kind of thing. And I want to expand on this. So I did it as a short film, but I know I want to explore on this subject because there's a huge stigma on Black men crying. We don't see men crying. It's frowned upon. And growing up in Ethiopia, I've seen men crying, like really. And I want to explore on those subjects, and I wanted to show that. So that's how it came about. It was a thesis project. They gave us 9 months, 3 months to write, 3 months to direct, and 3 months to edit. And that's how actually it took 9 months to actually bring everything together.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow. It's very interesting hearing people's stories and how, you know, the stories are born and come about. So, Carolina, let's go to you, because I know you were going into the challenges and I cut you off. So let's go into that. Let's talk about filmmaking is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. Whether it's documentaries, features, narratives, whatever. It's not for the faint of heart, and it's a very collaborative effort as well. Oh, we have about 12 people in the audience. Sorry, you can't see the chat room I'm looking at on the external platform, but I can see it. So tell us about some of the challenges. So I'm going to ask all of you that, if you can just think of one big challenge that just threw you off and you just wanted to throw your hands up in the air and be like, this is it, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's start with you. Alina.
Lots of challenges, actually. The first one was the co-direction, for sure, because it was the first time for both of us. We were friends, but not too much. So we are not brothers. So it was something really unusual, very challenging, but also very, very interesting, very stimulating for both of us, because we shared everything in the movie. Every single shot, every single decision was really shared out of the set, mostly. So this is the first challenges. And then we shot in 3 languages. We shot in Italian, in English, and in Swahili. We don't know the Swahili. So it was really difficult to manage the set with people, who are speaking in a language that you don't know at all. so it was difficult also because the Swahili is kind of language completely different than Italian. So in translating the lines, everything was longer.
I can
so,
imagine.
also the adaptation of dialogues has been really, really difficult. But I think the most difficult aspect of the making of was that lots of the actors were not actors, and also the main role, the main characters, Nuri, was not an actress. So for her was the first time in front of a camera. For her, for the first time, staying set and watching how a crew can work. So it was really difficult to make to help her in feeling comfortable in the set. But I think she was very good at the end. So it was really challenging, but also interesting in getting emotions from people who don't know how to do. So it's like everything is more natural, and you can feel, I think, deeply how people can communicate emotions when they are not, very experienced. I don't know if I can express myself properly, but
no, I understand that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So I think we got a very natural performance from Nuri, and also from the others that they were not, professional. And then we had also very professional actors, so they worked together, and everything was really exciting. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I mentioned that there were 2 features, there are actually 3. So there's Maka. Maka is a feature as well. So we'll go to Yao, and then we'll go to Simone to talk to us about your challenges. So Yao, your challenges in filming?
Well, I was directing a feature in India in 2015, and I kind of collapsed and nearly died,
Ooh,
So,
glad you're alive.
yeah, me too. Hence the themes, and being drawn to the themes of that film, or writing those stories about mortality and survival, So between 2015 and 19, I would think that's the first time as an adult I was making films. It was a very strange experience. It's like a sailor who's no longer at sea, So I took about 3-4 years to build back. Making it in Trinidad and not resuming the films in South Africa and India because I didn't have the wherewithal physically to do that, So it was a kind of comeback, and it took a lot, And then having to shut down for 2 years when I finally got halfway through the film in 2020 was another challenge, obviously. And I like to say that resuming the film after the 2-year hiatus was like falling in love and, going out and everything, and then suddenly having a massive heart attack,
Okay.
So the struggle in the film of the people to survive is very literally a struggle I went through, and many other people went through, obviously, in the world at that time.
Yeah.
The other thing was financing, because I improvised the screenplay a lot, and therefore I wouldn't get much financing upfront. Also, investors didn't want to take a chance on me because I seemed to be mortally wounded. So, insurance and, so I kind of, all I could come up with was 25,000 US, which is usually quite small for a feature. So that was one of the challenges, getting that film done for that amount of money. But I kind of did as much as I could in terms of tricking it, trying to, cleaning up all the loose ends. The crew was like 2 or 3 at maximum. So it's a bit of a stretch.
2 or 3 people on your crew? That was it?
Well, when I had to continue filming in 2020, no, that was the maximum. When I shot the part of the film I shot in Tobago, which is about a third of the film, the island of Tobago. That was just me. I did everything: camera, directing, and sound, everything.
Oh,
you know?
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we came down to. So I felt like I was in a holding operation, something like I was, So that was a major challenge, to be honest. In terms of what I was listening to Carolina saying, the cast that I had before COVID, I never resumed with them, and they're all professional actors. So the 70-year-old woman in Tobago who became the fourth lead main actor, she had never acted before, and that was a challenge. But I spent some good time with her, and I listened to her for 24/7, talking on the phone, talking to family and friends. So I was able to get her to talk naturally, just as she spoke on the phone or to people. So actually, when we showed it in Trinidad and Tobago, the people, I was surprised that people thought she did so well, because so God bless.
A testament to your direction, though.
Well, I guess so, but I am happy. I mean, on to the next one.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right. So we're going to talk about that too, what you're all working on next. So Simone, challenges. And I must say, I love the way that documentary was done. So please tell the director that.
I will.
I don't even know what to call that style. You all have to see Maka. So one of the things we're going to do, and the festival has been, as you can imagine, just up and down, up and down. We were supposed to send you passes so you could all watch the films online. So I'm going to write a note to myself. But Maka, I can't even explain the style, because it opens up with you and the director in a car talking. Explain that style, please, because that's what blew me with Maka. I was like, this is a beautiful way, because documentaries can be very boring, just talking heads and that's it. But that style of documentary shooting was ingenious. How did that come about? And then tell us about the challenges.
Yeah, we basically wanted to, in her book, Maka reflects upon what does it mean to be an African woman looking at the white majority, looking at her. So in this documentary, the idea of the documentary I came up with with Maka was that basically the director, the author, should have reflected about the violence or the kind of the difficulty of somehow filming a story about a Black woman from a perspective of a man, and in particular a white man in my case. And we try to create this authorial voice, which somehow expresses some of the, some reflections that I had by collaborating with Maka for 6 years. And the voice is actually expressed by the director in Arabic. So it was, I think that idea was complicated, no? So somehow bringing together a professional asset of filmmaking and with reflections that I developed in my academic work, in my collaborative work with Maka. Of course,
and humor. There was humor.
Yeah. It was a kind of a difficult balance, not to also be able to kind of make being funny, but let's say by talking about serious topic and talking about discrimination, etc. So we had to try that balance. We had a lot of rewriting, but luckily the director was very patient. The producers were also very patient, and they also contributed with an in-kind contribution to the film. And also we shot the film during COVID, so it was very difficult to kind of had to film, but luckily we were able, thanks to COVID, we were able to shoot a part of the film in Palazzo Ducale in Mantua, which is usually off limits. There are a lot of tourists, etc. So yeah, these are the main challenges.
Thank you. Okay, Orit. Main challenges.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest challenge was probably in the editing phase of the project. So of course, traveling there was, you as a documentary filmmaker, never having traveled so far from Australia to create a film, you're like worried, do I have everything? So there was that challenge of like being there and just like anxiously making sure that you have what you need because you know you can't come back. But then getting back,
Yeah, you can't just come back.
was just, I think that there was like a bit of a tension for me between, it had to feel like a short film, like that was the vision for the project, and not for it to be like this informative video that, charities can have. So there was the element of like, of course, explaining what they do and the technical side of things, but also balancing it out with the story of the people, the farmers, the millers, the mothers, making sure that we had a good balance of like that emotional journey with some of the information to support, what it was that people were talking about. So it's not that there were too many like arguments, but there was a lot of back and forth and negotiating like what should and shouldn't be there. And I think we got it to a really good place. But yeah, there was that challenge for me of having to communicate like what, stay true to the vision of what it was going to be before we started, and making sure that it was an emotional journey for audiences, because yeah, you just find so quickly, especially with a short film, that balance of information and story can change very quickly. So yeah, going through that process was like a big learning thing for me.
Would you travel that far again to make a documentary?
Definitely. Oh my gosh. As soon as I got back, I'm like, I want to do this again.
Okay, very
Before
nice.
even editing the film, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Maya, I see Duncan has disappeared. So I guess you can talk about your challenges. What were the like greatest challenges?
Yeah, he says sorry, his computer got too hot.
Okay,
But
okay, that's right.
I guess my main challenge was making those initial connections with the AADS program. This was my first documentary, and I'm kind of introverted. So I was like, how do I come into this close-knit community?
Aren't we all?
And right, and just let me interview them and make those connections. And so I would say for those first couple of interviews, when I was interviewing like faculty and students, like I was really closed off and shy. I was just reading the questions and like, you can answer, look at the camera. And then it was after I talked to some more of these professors that I'm now close with, and they were asking me questions and I was asking them questions, I got really comfortable, making these connections with people I've never met before. And by the end of it, I started letting loose and learning the trade of how interviews are done and just being more comfortable talking to people and making them feel comfortable as well. And I became part of that close-knit community, so much so that I added AADS as a minor. So I would say that was the biggest challenge for me.
Oh, that's a nice story. Thank you. Safiya?
That was a fantastic story, Maya. That's excellent. That's really good. I'm a professor, so I'm like happy the students enjoy how they tell to make a film. Okay, the biggest challenge for this film, so I started off knowing that I wanted the documentary to be highly stylized in terms of the artistic approach. For something that you said earlier, Mojisola, is that idea that the film documentaries are boring. They are really boring when they're boring, right? So I was like, this was not going to be boring. This was going to be lit. So I sat down and I just put down like I got all these B-roll shots of her from back in the day, and then I made sure I did a match cut on set, so I could very quickly intercut between her now and her then, because I'm matching her body language and her gestures, just her facial expressions. There's a 40-year span of time between both of them, but it's the same person. So I could very quickly, essentially like in fiction film, when someone turns, you cut on action. So I was able to cut on action between the B-roll and then her, now, present time her. And then after that, I also had to, there was another device I was going to use where when she said something, like say someone said something about her, I was going to get the footage, have her voice be their voice, but then the footage be their face. So there's this part where Muhammad Ali says, he punches into the camera and he was like, I only do this for my friend Jayne, but she says it, but I have the footage of him saying it playing over her audio. And I was like, whatever I do it 3 times to make it a device. So it's always a technique. Like whatever I decide to do, it has to happen at least 3 times. However, and then you just want like an assortment of visuals and compelling spaces. But I wanted people to be able to go in and out of today and go very quickly back and forth, the way that we do with our memory. You know, like as with memory, you're in the present time, but some random thing that looks like nothing to anyone else will make it so that you remember something from decades ago, you know? And that's actually kind of like what, yes, I'm sorry, I might say your name wrong. Yesmalem. Yeah, it's like, but the idea of grieving and just the idea, like that does extend out forever for people, and not in a bad way, but in a way that we're supposed to be connected to everyone that's ever, you know, meant something to us, even if it's so long ago. But that imprint that happened to her years ago, I wanted to have people experience that. I needed the viewer to experience the feeling of being able to toggle back and forth between present time and back in the day. And then the real problem was this: I had to sit down and I had to do everything that she said that was a fact. I had to research it with the public record. I wasn't going to put anything in the film that she presented as a fact without having a correlation in a magazine, an interview, some type of. And I have 4 African American studies professors who were pulling stuff from like research libraries. I was pulling stuff. I was like, she said this, and I had to have her say things 2 ways. I had to have her say something that was vague and then something that was specific. So she said it specifically. I'm like, can you just say it one more time, but in a way that I could still use it without the specific information being in there? So say, for an example, she said, oh, I graduated from high school in 1975. I'm like, can you say it again vague? When I graduated from high school, I had to make sure that if I couldn't find her diploma or her high school yearbook, I just had the statement without the year. And so I did that, and that's the whole film. So I had to have her say everything multiple times. And then she essentially, like, there's another part where she says, they said it was Jayne or nobody. And like everybody said that they wanted her to have the job. And I had to find clips of some of the people she's talking about looking like they said nobody. So I'm going over like frame by frame, like it looks like he says nobody right there. And so I have to layer these things on top of her dialogue and then basically just lip sync. Essentially, I had to sync up her audio with another person's visual and make sure it was played at the same rate with the same inflection. It was so much work. Like I was, oh my God, I don't even know. Like I might say, this might be a hologram. I might have another version of me in another dimension because it's like,
no, but I like the fact that people are actually thinking more creatively around documentary filmmaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was just like, and I had to think, and mind you, like all my B-roll footage, I don't know where any of this is. Like I don't have access to like CBS's, Viacom's, you know, I don't have access to any of the places where this actually is stored and libraried somewhere. So I just had to think, how is somebody who would have this on YouTube? Who would have this B-roll footage somewhere? So, and I was on eBay trying to buy all the magazines, like all these little artifacts, like fan stuff, things that people had of her mostly on eBay. I had bought a bunch of stuff off of eBay from people who were her fans. And that's how I got a lot of my B-roll shots. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot. And it was like 50 people who helped to make this film. I'm like, there's like 50 human beings who sat down to research all this stuff. So it was a lot of obstacles. I think I'm gonna go be a daycare provider after being a filmmaker. I want to hang out with 4-year-old kids and
no, you will.
Make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I need something to bring the stress down. Yes.
So let's move to Kristine, then Yesmalem, and then one more question, and then we have to wrap up. So Kristine, challenges. Remember challenges. Yes.
So I mentioned earlier that it was a school course, like a university course, right? And so prior to our trip, we only had about a month for pre-production. And you have people of different ranges in terms of their experience. Like I said earlier, I came in with no film experience at all. There were a lot of students in the class who also didn't have any film experience as well, whereas some people had, some experience who were communications majors, etc. So that was one challenge that we didn't prepare enough. Preparation. I apologize. That's my dog in the background.
You can't hear it. It's fine. You can't hear it.
So sorry. She's just going crazy right now. But like in terms of our pre-production phase, what I wished we did more of was prepare more in advance, talk to our collaborators in Kenya. We had the postdoctoral fellow who worked with us, Dr. Irina Wino, she actually was from Kenya. And so we had her as a resource right in front of us, with us. And I feel like we didn't ask her enough questions, just as much as we didn't ask enough questions of our collaborators in Kenya as well. And on ground, as I said, a lot of us had not a lot of experience. So there was a bit of a learning curve when it came to production, but at the same time, these are real people with real stories that, you want to be sensitive in terms of like just how you're approaching the situation. So there was a balance between being present and getting to know people while we were there, but also remembering that we had a production going on at the same time. I think having to juggle those two things was a bit difficult, and our story going into it, it was a little bit up in the air. So we didn't know who our main characters were going to be until we were on ground. So that was probably one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it sounds like you learned a lot from this experience. So you know what not to do and what to do for the next one, right?
Exactly.
All right, Yesmalem, and then the last question for everybody is what you're currently working on. So Yesmalem, answer this question, your challenges, and then you can answer what you're working on, and then we'll go anti-clockwise this time.
As Kristine, mine as well was a student project. So and I went to school in Columbia College Hollywood in Los Angeles, and we at the school wanted us to follow all the production rules inside California, inside Los Angeles. So we had to get permits. We had to go through everything that was necessary for the film. I had to fundraise. I was working full time and going to school full time. And as an African filmmaker, my parents, they're not. So I did this by myself, trying to prove myself, like, for them that this could be a career, this could work. And the reason that I went to school for is that they will give you the $40,000 equipment, and so that we can actually do the thesis. And that's one of the reasons. So, and then just convincing people to come together and cry, that was a whole nother thing. Getting my crew. So I had to go to the Ethiopian church. They gave me full access. Even the priests, they didn't even ask me for payment. They were on fasting. They actually did the scene for me. And so the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is a very historical church, and it has set of rules. You cannot actually walk in with shoes on, and on sets you cannot have lights and safety. There's a whole lot of issues that I had to convince my crew, so that, because it's a whole no. They cannot walk in with the shoes on inside the church. But it was a whole thing. But they actually took out their shoes. It worked out. Nothing happened. And getting the caskets, renting the caskets, driving the caskets. Oh, that was a whole another experience thing that that was a fun but challenging thing that actually happened. But in the future, I actually wanted to explore this film.
Turn it into a feature, you mean?
I want to turn it to a feature. I want to add the mental health aspects. I want to add the school shooting aspects into it, because we're really losing children every day with simple things. And I feel like the time that I shot this on 2019, and March 2020, I finished it around March 2020, and COVID happened. I couldn't take it. I couldn't push. I couldn't do the festival route. But I think it was for good, because what that pandemic showed us is, life is not predictable. Things happen. We need to be together. We need to be stuck. We need to stick together. And so, hopefully, you'll see a feature of Lijen in the coming years that actually try to explore these themes.
That would be a great feature. So keep us definitely posted about that one. So we're going anti-clockwise. Kristine, what are you working on next?
So I actually am not working on anything right now. I mentioned earlier, my majors were economics and peace and justice. So I'm actually, trying to enter the workforce right now. But I do see in my future working on another social justice documentary, because doing this was very rewarding, because I was able to do what I wanted to do, which was help other people who may lack the voice to speak up for themselves, or who don't have the platform to amplify their messages, And so If I do get into this work as a filmmaker in the future, I would hope that it's for something social justice related. But currently, I'm not doing anything related to filmmaking.
Okay. Safiya? Oh, you're a professor of film, right?
Yes, I would definitely. So I'm just building film programs. That's a big part of what I'm doing in the rest of my life. But my film life. So I had the great fortune of being at Howard University and having Chadwick Boseman as my roommate when I was in school. We had this big house of art. It was a bunch of artists, and you had to audition to get into the house. So I have my first 4 films were with Chadwick Boseman, and I want to pull all that work together and then make a feature. Because primarily for this reason, because I know people who don't know him, of course they miss him too, and I do validate that the loss that they feel, even if you can miss someone that you've never met, it is possible because the impact that they had on you. But the thing is that no one can ever be Black Panther. Like, you can't raise an 8-year-old boy to grow up and be Black Panther. It's a fictitious character. He can dress up like that for Halloween, but you could raise your child to have certain core philosophical qualities that Chadwick Aaron Boseman had as a man in this very brief time that he had on Earth. And so I haven't had my camera rolling during his early 20s. And I'm making my first films with him. I made a documentary about him, and I just want to pull all that together and make a feature project that is really illustrating. I really, honestly, I would love to make how they have Meisner and Stanislavski. I would love to make a book about his approach to acting and make it the Boseman technique. Because that's what my film was about. Was the documentary I made on him was his approach to acting and teaching students at the Schomburg, which is in Harlem, teenage kids, how to approach acting. And it's his philosophy. So I recorded it, and I would love to, put it make it a technique, because the one thing that he has that other people don't have was a spiritual connection that was always core to who he was. And it was always, channeling through him Eastern Western philosophy to then perform. It wasn't just, kind of mind, body. It was mind, body, spirit, soul. So he always, that was first. It wasn't even, optional or on the side. That was the whole plate. That was the table. So I just want people to work from that space, because that is how he achieved everything. I was witness to it.
We look forward to that. We look forward to that. Maya, what are you working on next?
I am currently working on another documentary about Eugene Hairston. He is the only known lynch victim in Guilford County in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then it's going to also focus on the history of racial terror in Greensboro, specifically focusing on the Black youth.
Okay. All the best with that. Keep us posted. Orit?
I would say I'm currently in a mode of trying to look for the next story that I want to tell. I really enjoyed this experience of traveling, making a film, being in a culture that's so different from mine, and meeting and collaborating with people there. So I think I'm super passionate about music, and I would love to find a story that involves music and activism. And I think, like Kristine said, about using film as a medium to amplify people's voices that are underrepresented, is something that I feel really passionate about. So yeah, something that, could either work with First Nation cultures or something in that world is kind of just where I'm researching. Yeah.
Keep us posted. Carolina, what are you working on next?
At the moment, I'm working on a documentary. It's going to be about a painter, so something completely different than the topic of my feature. And then I have an idea for a feature, I hope, but I have to go back to Africa. So it's going to be, I don't know, next year probably.
Okay, keep us posted. Simone, what are you working on?
So currently I'm collaborating with director Suranga Katugampala to make a book about his new film, which is going to be like a conceptual book. And I'm writing a new film about working class American communist Italian-American communist writer called Pietro Di Donato in the 1930s. He wrote Christ in Concrete, which was a bestseller at that time.
Okay, keep us posted. I think
will.
I've got everyone apart from Yao. What are you currently working on? Yeah.
Well, like Safiya, I have a day job, so I run the film school
Don't
at
we
my
all?
university. Yes, I run the film school at my university in Trinidad. And like Safiya, well, I am a Bison. I went to Howard Film School for 8 years, right? Haile Garima was my mentor.
He
Right?
is my everything. Yes.
Oh,
Right,
he's
all right.
all
We
our
gotta talk one
mentors.
day.
Oh, nice.
So I have a new film out, which is a short film, because I love both forms. And I have a short experimental film coming up in 14th of October this month in the Florence Biennale. So I'm running in a parallel universe in the art world in the Biennales with my more experimental short work. And I'm working on a feature in Jamaica because half my family or more lives in Jamaica. My mother was Jamaican. So that's going to be a nice little one. It's really about a mother and a son. And it deals with her. The mother is a great artist, but she has mental illness issues. And she's taken away from the son. So it's really about the son, this odyssey trying to get back to his mother and reconcile with her. So it's called The Colors of Red. So that's about it. So I'm tired.
Yeah, I think we're all tired at this point. We survived it. We got through everybody. So what we're going to do, we're going to have this on our YouTube channel so you can share it with your friends. So I will send everybody, what's today? Before the end of the weekend, everybody will get a link so you can watch all the films for free. I have to figure that out though. But we will send you the link by Sunday. So I want to thank you all again. The festival is still going on virtually, so spread the word. We still have films going on till I think next week Sunday, or yeah, next week Sunday. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So the African Film Festival Atlanta is in its third year. We will be back next year. We're going to reimagine the festival a bit because we realize that the whole landscape of film festivals has definitely changed since COVID. The hybrid version will definitely have to continue. And the fact that we are an international film festival, not everybody can just hop on a plane, come for a film festival for the weekend. So this hybrid aspect, we definitely know we're going to keep. I actually enjoy it because like you can see, we reach the world, literally, in the hybrid format. So thank you all again for taking this Friday evening, night, early morning time to speak with us. I think I don't know how you can all connect with one another if you want to. Do you want to go ahead and share email addresses? Or what I could do is in the next email, we won't BCC it, we will CCC it. So you can have everybody's email address. I think that would be the easiest thing to do. Some people are already sharing details in the chat room. If you want to quickly copy and paste it before I disconnect. It was great meeting everyone virtually, even though it's not in person, but to me, it's not that it feels the same. So my background is actually in tech. I actually work in IT. A lot of people don't know this. They just see me as a creator, but I'm actually half tech, half creator, and it works because the tech side of me allows me to do all of this. I'm not intimidated by all of this. So if I didn't have the tech side, there's no way we would have had this done today because I ran this by myself. Assistant did not turn up. And I'm actually concerned because it's very much unlike him. So I'll reach out to him. So people are sharing details. If you want to copy and paste quickly before I log out. Thank you again. Thank you, audience. Nobody asked questions. There were 12 people. They're now 9. No one asked questions. That's fine. It's going to be on YouTube. Ask your questions on YouTube like in a week or so. If you do have any questions, audience, thank you very much again, everybody, for coming. And I'm about to log out and get some sleep. Thank you. Speak to you later.
Take care, man.
All right.